Another one from Raquel. She has a bad story, and she follows it up with a good one here.
All right.
Okay.
And we learned a little bit about her in this scenario as well. I was born and raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a.k.a. Mormon. But my family was not your stereotypical Mormon family. I don't think you're from Utah. My mother was a convert, and my father wasn't very active. So my mom was the one taking all of us kids to church with her while my dad golfed every Sunday. One day, when I was 13, I had gotten up early in the morning around 6 a.m. to exercise. And as I got up, I realized my mom and dad were both gone and that I didn't see my dad the night before. I didn't think too much of it since my father was a business owner. He would stay late, catch up on paperwork every now and then. And I just figured that was what was happening, and my mom went down to the office to help him. Well, my mother walked through the door around 6:30 a.m. and was clearly upset and had been crying. I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it, honey. We'll talk later today about it." So, of course, I tried my best to get ready for school and head out the door. As soon as I left my house, I heard a voice inside my head say, "Your dad is on drugs." I continued to walk to school. Well, this was the 80s.
Yeah.
Business owners, "Oh, no, I don't think I can get ready for that meeting in that amount of time. Do you mind leaving let me get a cat nap for like 5 minutes?" "All right, I'm ready for the meeting. Yeah, let's go." That was the 80s for you.
Yeah.
I continued to walk to school, met up with my friend on the way, and confided in her that I had this thought that my dad might be on drugs. This particular friend's mother worked as my father's secretary, and our families knew each other well. So when I told her this, she looked at me like I was crazy and said, "No, your dad would never do something like that." School schedule that day was weird due to state testing, so we all had an extra long lunch. I decided to walk home, and when I came through the door, I found my father in the kitchen with his head in his hands. I walked over to him and asked him what was wrong. He stood up and hugged me tight and began to sob. He asked me what my schedule was like for the day, and I told him that we would be out of school soon and that I was home for lunch. He said that he would explain everything to me after school. I didn't know where my mother was at this moment, but later found out that she had left town to the nearest temple. After I got home from school, along with my brother and sister, we went down to the church and had a family meeting in the bishop's office. My father explained that he had been arrested for drugs and that he had a drug problem with meth.
Oh,
hopefully not the dicks. I wasn't so shocked due to the warning I got from what I think was from God that morning. My father was devastated and broken as he informed us that he was checking into rehab immediately and that we would drive down to the big city, which was about a 5-hour drive as a family the next day. I think because I was so young and due to the severity of the situation, I protested and said that I had testing at school and I shouldn't leave town. I had never in my life given a shit about school, and all of a sudden it seemed like the only thing that mattered. Because it's what you can control.
That's right.
In an uncontrollable situation. My mother spoke up at this point and said, "Your father has always been a good husband, father, and provider, and we are going to love and support him." So we left the next day to check my dad into rehab. He was in rehab for about 2 months, and while he was there, he wrote me letters. This was before the internet. My mother took over his business and ran things, keeping the family afloat.
Good.
I was so afraid that they were going to get divorced when he came home, but my mother assured me that she would give 100% of herself to make it work. While my father was in rehab, she found and hired the best lawyer she could find. I later found out that my father was set up by his dealer. His dealer had been arrested several weeks prior and had rolled on all of his clients in order to plea down his charges.
That's actually very common.
Yep, very common.
Yeah.
One by one, he set his buyers up. What an enormous blessing for us that his dealer didn't give him his usual crystal meth order. He gave him some Mary Jane and left. So when the police came in and busted my dad, they didn't find as much as they were looking for. Nevertheless, they ransacked his office and trumped up charges against him, trying to get as much out of the sting operation as possible. Because my father admitted himself right away into rehab and my mother had found a kick-ass lawyer, he was placed on probation and not sent to prison. My father's arrest was actually a blessing. When my dad came home, he began to explain to us that he was what was called a functional addict. Apparently, if your brain has a particular learning style and your mind can become overstimulated easily, drugs and alcohol are a way to self-medicate. Some might call this ADHD. He told the family that he wasn't ever planning on relapsing and that he was committed to being sober for the rest of his life. My mother learned a lot about herself and how she enabled him. Many years of working out the kinks followed. Fast forward 30 years, my mom and dad will be celebrating their 44th anniversary.
That's fucking awesome.
This May, and their marriage is rock solid. I myself have been married for 24 years, and I can honestly say that it just gets better every day. I thought a lot about my parents, my dad's drug abuse situation when I was newly married. I thought about how much I love my husband and if I would have had the strength my mother had to stay. I didn't realize the amount of betrayal that my mother experienced. I also didn't realize what it really took to make a marriage work. My mother had every excuse in the book to leave my father. I know that the thought had to have crossed her mind, but she's a good woman and she loved my dad and she knew who he was. She prayed for strength and prayed for patience and understanding. My father's heart was changed, and I truly believe that is because my mother actually learned how to hold him accountable and not enable him. So when you are new to accountability, kind of feels like cruelty, but if you dig deeper, you see that it is required in order to live deeper and you reach a higher level of understanding. That right there is one of the wisest sentences I have ever read in my life.
Wow, that's good.
Why do you think feminism hates accountability? Modern women hate accountability because it feels like cruelty when you're just given everything.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be short-term mean to be long-term nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a big difference between being nice and being kind. This is kindness. It took 8 years for my father to forgive himself and to rejoin his faith. He is a wonderful influence on my children, and I'm so grateful for my mother's amazing example to me of what a good woman really is. It really taught me that nothing in this life is automatic, and I think that is where so many falsehoods come into play for young women today. Teaching and preaching to young women that when something wrong happens, you should bail on your man. That as soon as it gets challenging, requiring you to delve deeper, you can just cop out and move on. I teach the opposite to my girls who are now 20 and 18. When you get married, you are expected to struggle with him, build with him, and be beside him. It saddens me to know that so many women have lost out on what could have been a really amazing and beautiful relationships because they bought into the feminasty movement falsehoods. So here's to good women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them, and give hope to the good men who are out there.
Well, first of all, the percentage of marriageable women, according to Aaron Clary, is somewhere between 5%.
That wouldn't shock me nowadays, honestly.
He knows numbers. That guy knows stats.
He's a 30-pound brain in a 10-pound bag.
I just did his book review.
Just like BVG, Crusader Nate.
That
like,
dude, yeah. It's like when he numbers, it's like, yeah, okay. I'm going
these dudes talk. I'm just like, it's just like the brain fluid starts to leak out. I'm like, you're on a different level. I was talking with our cloud operator over in Germany earlier today, and he's like, well, in order to get it working, I had to do this and I had to do that. I'm just like, I'm sorry, what?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
But Raquel, keep the stories coming. These are fantastic. And for once, I didn't have to edit them. They're very well written, which I always appreciate.
Very much.
Not bad, not bad.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.